Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the January edition of the HOA Open Village Meeting. Today, the topic is the state of the village. My name is LaVon Mitchell, and I am the HOA VP of Programs. I will be your host and moderator for the afternoon. We have a very good agenda today. It's packed with information. It's all about what the 2021 results were and the 2022 plans for the village. Mark Pantley, our HOA president, will be talking to us about the HOA. We have Marty Inkrot and Winston Blazer, who will be giving us the latest updates on the POA and Tellico Village. I'm sorry? And Pat White is also in attendance to help out with Marty. Thank you very much. We will also have Jim Hockey, and he will be telling us about Tennessee Smart Yards. In addition, we have Sherry Lee, who will be talking about the Tellico Village Neighborhood Watch Program. That will then be followed by question and answer. Just a couple of things before we get started. We will be having the Q&A, and we will be taking them from the speaker or from the microphone that's in the center. We will also be taking questions via the online chat. All questions will be held until the end of all the presentations. When you are asking a question, whether it be through the chat or live, please first say who you would like the question to be addressed to, and then ask the question. We will do our best to get through everybody's questions. In the event that we run out of time, because there is a hard stop, we will be taking the questions and sending them to the appropriate person for a response. Those questions and the answers will then be published in the upcoming edition of the HOA Voice. Please keep in mind, too, that this is being broadcast on the Tellico Village Network, the YouTube channel, so you can watch it live, and you can also replay it at a later time. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mark Pantley, who will give us an update on the HOA.
Thank you very much. Thank you, LaVon. I want to talk a little bit about last year, and then we'll talk a little bit about this year. Last year, we were largely caught up with what had happened in 2020, and so HOA became largely inactive in 2020 because of COVID. And so last year, 2021, it was about how to restart and how to get things going again. So a lot of our focus was on how to transition out of the COVID lockdown and yet remain risk-based and careful about how we do things. So it's become a bit of a balance, but it's something I think we were successful at as we went through the year. In terms of costs, we were able to break even. I mean, our basic model is we spend back into the village what we receive in terms of user fees and any kind of revenue we get. Any additional money we put back into the monthly socials. And so we saw a bit of increased spending. We brought in live music and brought in some additional activities and things like that. Membership, by the end of the year, had returned to pre-COVID levels. So we have about 1,600 members at the end of last year, or 1,600 households, should we say. The socials, we made a concerted effort to try and put in a little bit more fun into the event, to create more entertaining activities. That's where we brought in live music from time to time. And as a result, we saw attendance slowly rising through the year. So it worked out well for us. Events have largely been constrained by how many people are willing to be and are able to be event coordinators. And so for every event we had, they were well attended, and we were able to offer quite a wide variety of events through the year, and we had good turnout through them. We just want to have more. One thing that we took on towards the end of the year was starting up a new committee within HOA, which is the Aesthetics and Environment Committee. And I'm not going to steal the thunder from Jim, because he's going to introduce it to you. But it's something that we feel strongly about, and so the board agreed to initiate this at the end of the year, and now we're into a rollout period. Neighborhood Watch program, similarly, I'm not going to steal Sherry's thunder either, but we did have a successful pilot last year down at Kahidi, where we turned Neighborhood Watch into more of a neighborhood-focused activity, which it seems a bit of an oxymoron since it's called Neighborhood Watch, but Sherry can kind of walk us through that and talk about it. And it was successful as a pilot, and it's something now we want to run up here in this end of the village as well. Our highway safety program has been running for years. It's headed by Ed Wilson, and they continue to focus on identifying and working with TDOT and with TVA, for that matter, on ways to improve our state roadways. And so that's largely around Highway 444, which is right out here, but it also has to do with Niles Ferry Road and Highway 411 and any other state roadways we have, anything that's outside the village, because the village is all self-managed. 2022, we're looking to build on the successes we had in last year. And so, in particular, like I mentioned, we're largely constrained by event coordinators, and so we're looking to recruit more event coordinators. More event coordinators mean more events. More events mean more activities, gives us more stuff to do, and that's what we're all here for. So we're going to be focusing on recruiting and training and mentoring and coaching event coordinators. And part of it is we've identified is that it's one thing to volunteer to be an event coordinator, but then it's another thing to be successful at it and be good at it. And we have some good knowledge in the village about how to do that, and so we want to work with people to help them grow and become good event coordinators. We're also looking to increase our monthly social attendance, and that's really about more fun, more variety. Every month is going to be a themed event. So this last month we were focused on the new year. In February, of course, is going to be a Valentine's event, and every month will be a little different, and it'll give us some variety and some different ways to get together and have a social time. And as a result, we're looking to then see attendance grow in that. In general, I'd like to see attendance grow in the membership as well, but it's not something I think you get directly. I think if we're offering activities, if we're offering things to do, if the monthly socials are worth attending, then membership will grow on its own. And so it's sort of an outcome of whether we do it right. But we're already seeing some impact from this. The membership now is above 1,700 and it's still growing, so we're above last year. We set our budget at 1,600, which was last year's number, and yet we're already well above that. So anything we see in additional membership revenues and things, we're just going to plow right back into the organization. The other thing I'm interested in is collaboration. And so what can we do to collaborate more between the HOA, New Villagers, and POA in particular? And we've done a couple joint events now with New Villagers, which has gone well. And we're looking to do that in the future. It won't happen real often, it'll be periodic though, where particularly if we have a big event, then we're looking to get together and do it together, and that way it's easier to build and support a successful event if you've got a wider base to pull from. So working with New Villager on common events, but also we're talking with POA and New Villagers about anything else that we could do to collaborate. One area that we've been talking with the marketing group in POA on is whether we can align some of the welcome orientation activities. So POA 101, HOA has a welcome orientation. New Villagers has a series of handouts and info packs that they use, and we want to align that into more common messaging, but also maybe find ways to simplify the way we educate and inform villagers and do it in a uniform way, in a common way. Neighborhood Watch, we're looking to build on what we did last year, and so there'll be improvements. And one is reorganizing by neighborhood, and Sherry's going to talk about that, and also increasing the visibility through the village through new signage. So if you're familiar, in some neighborhoods you walk in and you see a neighborhood watch sign, and some of them are there and some of them are not. Some of them are different, some of them are a little bullet hole written. We're pulling all those down and putting up new signage. And so there'll be uniform signage both in Loudoun County, tied to the Loudoun County Sheriff, and there'll be similar signage down in Kahidi to tie to Monroe County. And so, I don't know, I think you have an example in your pack about that. Yeah, so we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail. A&E committee, as I said, we're establishing the committee this year, introducing Tennessee Smart Yards program, and then that becomes a launching point for some other ideas we have around aesthetics and environment. And I think Jim's going to give you a little flavor of that. The other thing that's just come up recently, and we're not too sure where it's going to lead, is Litter Angels. So Litter Angels is going through a change in leadership right now, and we started talking to them about what they're doing, and our concern is that we want them to be successful. It's a great program. They do a real service to the village. We want them to continue. We don't want them to stop. And so if there's anything HOA can do to help them be successful, then we're interested in that. So it isn't about taking over Little Angels or owning it or anything like that, but how do we work with them? How do we collaborate? How do we help them to be successful in what they do? And the change in leadership is a challenge for them, and so we're going to come alongside and see what we can do to help them and make sure they're okay. But it's evolving. It hasn't really settled itself yet, but we're going to follow that one through and get to the end of that. Okay, that's what I had. I think we're going to hand this to Winston Blazer at this point.
Ready for me, Mark?
I'm ready for you. And we're going to learn all about HOA, or a POA. Now we know about HOA. Yeah, you're next up.
All right, thank you very much. Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank the HOA for having me, give you a kind of a quick recap of the 2021 year. Cliff Notes version, it was a very good year for the POA, operationally, financially, just about any way you look at it. Some quick notes on the finances. The POA exceeded its budget by close to $5 million. Basically, the result of that is not because of poor budgeting, but it's because the marketing and the golf world and everything in the economy that leans on us was very good to us this past year. We thought 2020 was a good year with $3.1 million in net income, but 21 exceeded that and then some. The best way for me to explain it without going through, all the financial statements and everything is every department pretty much just hit home runs when it came to their operations, exceeded their budgets and revenue and reduced their expenses accordingly. But I know a lot of you go, well, that's accounting mumbo jumbo, and accountant can make the number whatever you want it to be. So we'll get down to the real litmus test, and that's cash. Our cash position as of 12/31 was $12 million. 2.8 million of it was operational, the rest sit in reserve type accounts. That is very, very strong for the financial position for the POA. ACC, another admin branch of the operation, had a very busy year with 374 homes permitted in 2021. To give you some perspective, in 2020 we had 208 homes permitted, and in the boom of 2005 we did in excess of 252 homes, and we thought that was a big number, and we blew that number completely out of the water some 17 or 15 years later. In the HR world, another admin-related branch of the business had a very, very difficult world. I don't think I can really explain what's going on when it comes to finding employees and where they've all disappeared to and what's going on there. But it's nothing like I've ever seen when it comes to hiring and staffing the POA operation. At this current time, we're looking for 12 people in seven different locations of the company. So if you're bored, please see our HR department. In our IT world, it was a very busy time for them from the standpoint, and I know you all have heard about the company's computer systems being held hostages. pipeline companies, hospitals, industrial sites, and so forth. So they were on a mission to upgrade our systems, update and protect our systems, backups, firewalls, and so forth, enhance the Wi-Fi systems, improve that security and access points. They worked with TV broadcasting to remodel their studios, upgrade their systems, and so forth and so on. Many, many improvements, and I guess most of you realize now that if you don't have computer systems, you don't operate in today's world. When I came here, it was more of a PC on top of your desk, and you printed out your reports, and that's how you shared your information. They also worked with the golf program to program these more modern golf carts that we use in the golf operation, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Speaking of golf, they had a blowout year. Almost 108,000 rounds, 5,000 rounds more than 2020. We thought maybe that those rounds might come down from 2020 because of the COVID era had somewhat passed, but that proved to be wrong. So evidently golf is resurged as its place in Tellico Village, because at one time golf was by far the king of operations in the village as far as recreation goes. To give you some comparison, where we were just 2 short years ago, the 2015 through 2019, the average golf rounds was 72,000. So we've jumped from 72,000 to 108,000 rounds. So the golf world has obviously turned up their performance and done a very good job. Congratulations to the golf team. I've got a great bunch in that area. In 21, as I mentioned, we replaced our old worn-out carts. We got new carts with GPS technology. This technology helps the golf team in many different ways. First off, they don't have to go in and drag them off the course when the lead batteries go out. The lithium batteries can hold up a charge all day long, and they can be used for 54 holes straight before they're charged. The GPS technology allows them to monitor play and send subtle messages to slow groups, asking them to speed up or pick up their play, which creates the enjoyment of golf. I know that's a sore subject for some players, going both ways. Please play fast, that's all I can say. And another big benefit in or improvement in the golf world was the Kahiti front 9 bunker renovations, which have been a sore spot for the Kahiti golf maintenance crews ever since that course was built, are being renovated to become more user-friendly, shall I say, and then also maintenance-friendly. I'd like to thank the property owners of Tellico Village for their support of golf. Your support of golf, not only, obviously we want you to use the amenities, and we appreciate, higher utilization of all our amenities, but the use of these amenities, such as golf, greatly reduces the subsidy, eases the burden on the overall budget. And I'd also like to thank you all for your support of the merchandise sales. The pros have done an outstanding job of bringing in new, very relevant, fashionable merchandise, and you all supported them to the tune of $450,000. $330,000 was the budget, so you blew that, and that is on you all. I appreciate it very much. Please support your golf operation, and maybe Pat will throw a plug in for the other amenities also. He's good at that. But we really want you to use our amenities and support our operation. Another operation that had a very busy year, almost back to normal, and had a very hard time in 2020 with the COVID, is the rec department. When Simon came on board, my general charge to him was to take our rec operation to the next level. We had a good rec operation, but I felt like it was stagnant, and I felt like we needed to take it to the next level, and he's done exactly that. He's created trail system. He's created programs on the lake. I've never seen anybody stand on a surfboard before on their head, but he can do it. He created a foundation to help fund some of the many projects that he's very passionate about. He's got a great bunch of trustees that work with him on that. He's raised almost $200,000 in that area. But in 21, his focus was to invest in his management team, and he's done that. Just a little bit about Simon and his credentials. Simon was the Tennessee Recreation and Parks President for the state of Tennessee in 2019. Evidently, he did such a good job on that, they asked him to sit on the board. He currently sits on that state board. He has a Certified Parks and Recreation National Certification. There's only 4 other rec directors, members, or managers in the state of Tennessee that have that certification. And he's also, on top of that, an international yoga certification. And if that doesn't keep him busy enough, he's now working on his doctorate in leadership. Another one of his managers, Larissa Lonsdale, got her Aquatic Facilities Operations certification. That's a mouthful, but it's very important when you have pools, indoor and outdoor, because of the COVID activity and also because of health department regulations and because pools are not as simple to operate as one may think. Jaden Macon, a relatively new employee, got his CPR certification and his Aquatics Facility Operator certificate. And Lindsay Allison is working with on a program called A Matter of Balance. It's a fall prevention program, working with the National Council on Aging, partnership with the UT Extension, and I felt that was very relevant for our demographics out here. She's also a group fitness instructor, aquatics instructor, and is a CPR, American Red Cross CPR certified teacher or instructor. Very proud of the rec department, the area there and the wellness operations they've got going on. Now, another very busy operation, which I mentioned earlier a little bit about it, but specifically the marketing program. In the Great Recession of 2008, CCI basically pulled up all their tent stakes, rolled up their stuff, and went home back to Arkansas and left us with no marketing program at that point in time. We floundered through the recession just like all the other businesses of the world and came out on the other side and realized that with that marketing recognition and program in place, this village was an island unto itself with very little tentacles to reach out into the big world and bring people into this place. In 2012, we started the marketing program. In 2013, I hired Beth Kaburka, and she put in place a very formal program that's got the ball rolling. The purpose for the marketing was twofold for me. One was to sell the non-productive lots that were just sitting in limbo. They weren't generating any assessment revenue. POA owned them. They'd taken them back through collection activity, and they were just dead weight to us. And the second was to increase the overall value of Tellico Village's lands and value to property owners and their residences. Needless to say, I think that program has been very successful, and I'm going to give you some stats in that area. In 21, we sold 279 lots out of that inventory of lots that we had. That'll generate over $500,000 in 2022. That's $500,000 that we were not getting. That's coming straight into the operational of the POA. In the last 3 years, the marketing program has sold enough lots to generate almost $1 million. And that $1 million is something that repeats every year, not one time. Those lots are now paying assessments and generating almost $1 million. On a more down-home level, as I say, in 2013, it took 7 to 8 months to sell your house. That's when we were coming out of the recession. Things were starting to pick up, but it still took a long time. At that time, the average square foot value was $121 per square foot. In 2019, you flash forward 6 years, it took 1.8 months to sell your house on average. This last year, the average time on the market was 15 days. And if you take a look at the square foot value from 2013 to 2021, it has risen from $121 to $208, or an $87 increase in your home values per square foot. To put that in perspective, 5,000 homes in Tellico Village, and that's about where we sit right now. Average home, and this is a conservative number, of 2,500 square feet. That $87 increase is brought in value to you all and your equity of $1.1 billion, and that's with a B. So based on that, I consider the marketing program that we started in late 2012 a pretty big success. Another department I want to talk about is Public Works. In 21, we saw a transition in leadership in that area. Longtime Public Works Director Jeff Gagley retiring. We went out, did a search, looked for a new director. We looked out of state, in state. We looked in our own backyard. When it came down to it, I hired Clayton Taylor, a 25-year employee, had been with the Public Works Department for 25 years. He'd worked just about every job in Public Works. He was currently and still is the manager of the ACC. Many of you that have built a house in the last 6 years probably are familiar with him, dealt with him in an ACC meeting, or your builder was. A lot of you have probably seen him or dealt with him when it comes to drainage in the streets, street maintenance, so forth and so on. He's a very dedicated employee, very capable employee, brings a lot of energy and a lot of ideas to the job. And I think that you all are in good hands when it comes to the Public Works Department. One of the things I wanted to break up that I probably maybe should have put this in the marketing area, but a little fun fact, the village has kind of grown to a next level. I've been here since '93. Been here when I've seen completely new subdivisions and new areas been created, golf courses cut out of the woods and put together. The last 5 years, we've grown by over 1,000 homes. That's 1,000 homes that require a lot of service from Public Works and all the other amenities in the village. I'm not complaining, simply stating the facts. We have grown significantly in the number of property owners and the number of homes that we're responsible for. Those homes require leaf and brush pickup. They require 24/7 water sewer service, so forth and so on and on and on and on I can go. In the last 10 years, we've almost increased by 1,500 homes. So you all are in a very vibrant village, very growing village, and at some point in time, it's going to be a very huge operation. Marty, maybe you could, be board president then too. Anyway, your village is very strong financially. You're very strong operationally. The last department is really not a POA department. This is an area that we contract out except for the Keedy Clubhouse, but it's food service. Our food service hit by the COVID operation, and many of y'all have probably seen articles about that on the news and so forth, has a very difficult time in two areas. One is employees. Just like me, we cannot find people to work. We don't know what they're doing. I was talking to Mark about that a few minutes ago. We don't know how you're paying your bills or how they're surviving or what have you, but they are not applying for jobs. Number two is food supply, for whatever reason, is very unreliable. So I ask you to be considerate of that when you go to the POA restaurants. A lot of times we take for granted that things are there and they're not. But anyway, in summation, I had a very good food service year. Toka Clubhouse had over $1 million in sales. Tenacity Clubhouse had $1.1 million in sales. The Yacht Club had $1.5 million in sales. And the amazing thing about the Yacht Club that I thought I'd never say was the Yacht Club on the subsidy line actually was positive. They generated money for the POA. Okay, I'm getting a sign that I need to talk quick, so I'm going to go through something very quick. I wanted to talk about the CCI purchase that took place in December of this year. You probably heard about it at town meetings in October. The one thing that I want to summarize that by, we bought several tracts of land, 50-something pieces of land, 216 acres. I can go on and on and on about the details, but it allows the POA now to control its destiny. You no longer are under the cloud of a CCI developer, and that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but there were certain things that we did not have control over, even though we bought and paid for everything and we ran everything. The POA now owns the developer rights along with all that land. The developer rights is more important, in my opinion, but it now has opened up a brand-new era for the association, and I think it's a very exciting era. And with that, I want to turn it over to the board president, Pat White.
Good afternoon. I'm Marty Inkrot. I'm president of the POA board, and I brought my backup with me, Mr. Pat White. So we're going to share duties here a little bit so we don't get too boring for you. I did want to acknowledge a few other people that are here. We have another board member, Sue English Kovar, up front here. I think I saw Bob Brunetti back there a little bit farther. If you guys could stand up and be acknowledged, because you're certainly providing a great service to the community. And another person I wanted to point out, another distinguished guest, is Mr. Henry Cullen, our county commissioner. Henry? Thank you. There's 4 areas that Pat and I want to touch on a little bit. They are basically some highlights from 2021, and then from there, what were the 2021 board objectives and what were the accomplishments from them. And just a little bit about the POA financial position. Winston certainly gave us an update on that, and I'm just going to kind of reemphasize where that is. And then what are our objectives for 2022? So I'll jump in on some of the highlights. Very first one, Winston just mentioned it, the CCI deal and the Kahidi entrance property. So the CCI deal closed in December. The Kahidi property is closing, I believe, later this week or next week. But both of those are significant accomplishments, as Winston mentioned about the CCI deal, and can't say enough about what that gives us in terms of controlling our own destiny. So Winston and his team did just a tremendous job pulling that together, so they deserve a lot of credit for that. The next thing I want to talk about is Asian carp. If you recall, this has been top of mind for the village, gosh, for well over a year, if not longer now. And earlier in the year, last year, we were pushing it as a board, and other groups were pushing it too, to write cards and letters to the TVA, to your senators and your congressmen, and just try to get some action taken on managing that situation. So what's happened from all that is the TVA has released their report and announced that 7 of the locks will get barriers. Now that's good news. They're going to start with Kentucky and the Wilson dams. That's the good news, I guess, but it's not done yet because the money still needs to be appropriated from Congress to get started. So I put on there 2023 earliest, because who knows when that'll happen, but certainly it's moving in the right way. And then I also put on here a quote from our Congressman, Tim Burchett, basically acknowledging the input from the Tellico Village Property Owners Association in terms of helping to make that recommendation possible. And the people, I think, there's different groups that were involved, but I certainly wanted to point out a few that were very involved, and that would be the Fishing Club, our Governmental Affairs Committee, the Cruising Club, the HOA, and all the property owners who sent letters. The next thing that I wanted to mention is the Wellness Center roof. So you may not think that's a great accomplishment, but I think I wanted to bring it up because it's finally behind us. So we go from here. We obviously spent a little bit more money than we anticipated on this because we started with the metal roof and we ended up with the shingle roof. But it's done, it's behind us, we're gonna move on, and it looks good and it's very functional at this point. Okay, Pat, you got the next ones.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You want these back? Okay. As you know, we added a Tanasi Lagoon dock, 32 slips that began to be available in 2021. We have another dock that's planned. We approved that budgeted amount yesterday in the board meeting, and there is an outlying dock for 2023 that we will be working on the rest of this year and hopefully have that approved for putting in 2023. And I wanted to point out this next one, the ACC inspectors, and thank the people of Tellico Village and the property owners. Winston talked about all the houses that we've been adding, and when that happens, you end up with a lot of construction, you end up with a lot of mud, silt, drainage runoff, and we had a great number of people, property owners, contact the POA, the ACC, regarding these issues going on within Tellico Village, and by communicating with the board, we were able to add 3 inspectors that go out and make sure that they're following the guidelines, and we also required an engineering drainage runoff plan as part of the new home permitting, so they have to live up to that from the first time they put a shovel in to the time the home is occupied. We also put in, we also put in a program called Help Spot, which was a great tool for reporting, tracking, and communicating issues. That means that there is no need, and again, all of the new people here in Tellico Village and a lot of us and the growing of the POA staff, there's no need to know who to call or what issues, does it go to this department or that department. You can get on the Tellico Village POA website, you can log on to HelpSpot directly, and you can state the issue or the problem, or you can even say thank you very much, good job, or whatever you wish, and you will be logged in, you will be dispatched, your concern will be dispatched, and then you will start receiving immediate follow-up until your claim is closed. At that, I want to also thank the HOA who had, and the property owners that were involved in the beta testing of that. It went on for quite a while to make sure that when we rolled it out, it worked properly and all of the follow-up could be done. Then we have COVID response. We remained open and operational while following the COVID's federal, state, and local guidelines and restrictions. And we have a special thanks to go out to the POA staff, and particularly to our president, Rick Blau, who worked long and hard keeping up with all of those changing regulations, sometimes day to day. And then also specifically thanking the property owners during this difficult time for not only for staying healthy, but for following the state, local, and federal guidelines, allowing our facilities to remain open for use by all property owners, and even though some of those usage times were somewhat restricted.
You got the clicker?
No, he's clicking.
Oh, she's clicking, okay. So the next thing we want to talk about are the objectives we had for 2021 and where we stand with them. The first one was to develop an action plan for the succession of Winston upon his retirement at the end of the year, this year. I have that as a carry forward into 2022, but we did start some things in 2021. And just to give you an update, the board is working with Susan Lehman. She's a resident of the village and has a lot of experience with executive search. So she's taking us through the process. So basically what we've done so far is we've updated the job descriptions, we've ranked the competencies that we feel are important in a new CEO, and we'll be using that as input then into the interview questions that we're in the process of developing now, as well as an interview approach. One of the things that we're going to be doing maybe as early as next week is placing an ad in a forum. It's at the Communities Association Institute, the Large Scale Managers Forum. And that's where a lot of these types of positions around the country get posted. So we're going to post something there for this position. And we'll probably also put it in some other recruiting websites like Indeed and some of the other big ones. So the plan is we'll do that next week or so, and basically give it to the end of February and see where we're at. In the interim, we as a board are going to also be developing a list of potential search firms to employ. So we'll take stock of where we're at, and if we feel we need to go that way, that's when we'll start that process. So the thing to be aware of, though, in engaging a search firm, as most of you probably know, is that we have to pay them, and usually it's 30% of what you're paying the person that's coming in. So, I mean, we'll certainly do it if we feel like we need to, but we'll assess it at the end of February. The second one was develop reserve funding and debt reduction strategies. So what we've done there is we did have an internal assessment of where we think that the reserve fund balances should be. We don't have a lot of confidence in that, because we don't have the experience here of doing this type of thing. And the Finance Advisory Committee and the board is recommending that we take it for an outside review and help us determine what our reserve fund balances need to be. So in our board meeting yesterday, we just approved going forward with that. The other thing that we did here is we did pay off the Tokwa Clubhouse in October. And that, you see that balance there is $1.5 million.
Part of what we're also doing is enhancing communications within the village. We've turned that strategy over to Beth Kaburka, the Communications Department, and the Communications Advisory Committee. We've reviewed those policies, procedures, and one of the things that we as a board have asked them to do is to make sure that our communications are staying consistent across all departments. We found in past years that sometimes one department will communicate something that is not exactly in tune with another department, and that causes a great deal of issues between property owners and the POA. So that will be changed as well. All communications will then go back through Beth Kaburka, the Communications Department, and the Communications Advisory Committee. We've identified areas to improve the communications and to identify and reach out to particular, well, let's start off with all of Tellico Village first, but sometimes there is a need to reach out to a part of Tellico Village or just a group within Tellico Village. And by implementing this communication strategy, we can do that. We have a telegram. If you're not a receiver of the telegram, then please get involved in that. You can sign up on the TVA POA website, and then there's a quarterly newsletter.
Okay, so the next one is implement public relations and marketing strategies. And again, you know, Winston talked about this earlier. Primarily, that's Beth Kaburka and her organization. I believe that fell as an objective for us because Carla Johnson was on the board last year, and that was kind of her forte as well. So she worked very closely with Beth and her team on that. And I think one of the good outcomes of that, if you don't already know, is a website called tellicovillage.org. And that's where they have a lot of the new pictures that the marketing team took, as well as a lot of other stuff about Tellico Village that is very interesting to see. Go ahead, Pat.
And I'm going to go really fast here because the timekeeper just threw the 1 minute on me. So Mark talked about most of the rest of this. We're finding that we're duplicating a lot of services and information, so we're trying to get together with the HOA, the POA, the new villagers to get to one single welcome orientation to get everybody up and running as early as possible. Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 more slides. Again, Winston talked about our financial position. My numbers don't match exactly what he said, but his are probably more correct. He said 12 million as a cash balance, but regardless, we're sitting in very good financial position. The other thing I wanted to be sure everybody was aware of, and I listed all of our debt exposure, and along with the percentage rate that we're paying on that debt. So that just shows you that in total, we have $10.5 million of debt outstanding. We do have a 10-year financial plan, and what we try to do there is map out all the different expenses as well as the income that we'll have in the outlined 10 years. So we work with long-range planning and trying to map the things that they've identified that we need to do within that 10-year period and be sure that we have it in our financial plan. So one of the things, we had a discussion on this yesterday in our board meeting, and not all of us agreed that stuff was included or not included. So that is going to be a focus for this year to be sure that we're working very closely with long-range planning and have the things identified there in the financial plan. And then my final slide, what are our 2022 objectives? So I mentioned it earlier, so the CEO replacement is certainly one. And our goal there is to have someone hired sometime in the third quarter. And we will be communicating with everybody. This was kind of the start of that communication today. But we will be communicating with everyone probably on a monthly basis at least as we go along here. The second one is the carry forward of the reserve fund valuation. And I talked about bringing in that third party for a review, and then we'll incorporate that into the budget and the 10-year plan. And the other thing is to develop an investment strategy for our reserve funds. Next thing is to review all major supply and service contracts that we have. So those would include the ones that we spend the big dollars with, like Jacobs Engineering, AWE Hospitality, Teleco Dirt Works, and a few others. And then the final one, with the acquisition of the Cooper properties and the Kahiti entrance, as well as other things in the village that we haven't identified in terms of how we're going to use yet, is to develop this land use plan. So that's on Winston's goals for this coming year. And the plan is that his team will be working with the long-range planning team and coming to the board in June with their recommendations. So that's where we sit. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to introduce Jim Hockey, who is our chair for our Aesthetics and Environment Committee. Jim, you're on.
Now you've heard discussions about what the board is doing, what Winston and his team are doing, and it's always somebody else doing it for you and with you. I'm going to talk about what you can do. So I'm going to talk about the A&E committee a little bit, our background, our history, where we're headed, and then particularly about the Tennessee Smart Yards program. As you came in this evening, you probably met my wife, Marilyn, or maybe the leader of the Tennessee Smart Yards program, Dr. Andrea Ludwig. They're manning the desk out in front if you didn't stop by on your way in, or if you did, stop by again on your way out. We're very fortunate to have Andrea with us this evening, and she's located at UT campus here in Knoxville, but she's in charge of this statewide program. I've been working with her for over 6 months in discussing, developing, and understanding this Tennessee Smart Yards program. A little bit about the history of A&E. I got involved back in 2017. And how did I get involved? In dealing with a long-range planning committee to talk about and promote the importance of the environment. That's my background as a retired engineer. Maybe you remember the 2018 long-range planning survey that many of you participated in, but if you've only come here in the last few years, you just recently participated in a new long-range planning effort. Out of that effort came two important things. The most important thing to those people that participated in the program was the financial stability and viability of Teleco Village. The second most important thing, per the survey, was the environment and aesthetics of Teleco Village. What that then morphed into was a recommendation from the Long Range Planning Committee to the POA board to form in one form or another some form of an A&E committee, aesthetics and environment. The board formed an A&E committee as a subcommittee, ad hoc committee to the Architectural Control Committee known as the ACC. We started with nothing, and we started right in the beginning of the COVID crisis. The committee never had an opportunity to meet in person. I still have never met many of the members back then. We worked on it, and in October of this past year, in August, I made a presentation to the board telling about the Tennessee Smart Yards program. In October, the board decided, and not inappropriately, where was the best place for A&E to rest, be a part of in the long term. This isn't a short-term project. This is a forever project. What that evolved into in my discussions with Mark was the best place to house A&E was within HOA. And the HOA board, in their wisdom, in my opinion, in December formed an A&E committee and asked me to chair it, and that's why I'm here this evening. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tennessee Smart Yards program. It forms not the only part, but the immediate focus and the cornerstone of the A&E committee's work. This is a big deal to you and to me and to everybody in this village, that it is not a one-time thing, it is a long-term, forever commitment. It's like a weight loss program where you stop eating for 2 weeks and just drink liquids and you lose weight. This is a change in how I operate and how you operate and how you maintain your property. As stated in the HOA A&E Committee chapter, the purpose of this committee is to, and I quote, assess, educate, influence, and recommend principles, practices, and policy in aesthetics and environmental stewardship. This is not a new program in reality to Tellico Village. It is very similar and builds upon the Audubon certification program that the golf course community went through and has certified all 3 golf courses here in Tellico Village as Audubon certified courses. This is a similar program to that, different but very similar to you, the property owner. So I commend the board and I commend the golf people for having the foresight to begin this program a number of years ago, and it fits right into what I'm talking today. Next. For the last 8 months, I've been talking with, and she's been most generous in her time with Dr. Andrea Ludwig, who is part of the UT Ag Extension and has this long-term vision of what this program can do in the state of Tennessee. This is a homeowner, individual initiated program, and it is to guide the village, guide yourselves in implementing via this program the Tennessee Smart Yards program, which you can then self-certify, and I'll tell you some more about that in just a bit. The A&E committee within the HOA will implement, guide, answer your questions, and help you through the self-certification program. You're going to hear a word called steward or stewardship repeated for the rest of my talk this evening. It is your participation and your desire to become a true steward of Tellico Lake. Tellico Lake is the most important natural resource that we have here. If we didn't have a lake, I doubt very much that Tellico Village would even exist. Tellico Lake is truly critical, it is important, it is appreciated, and it is up to us, me and every one of you here this evening, to ensure that this lake remains as it is today and potentially even improve its quality. This is not a new program. This program is built upon similar programs that were developed, and many of you, myself included, moved here from Florida. We are kind of halfbacks in some respects. I was familiar with the program in Florida, and this program is built upon that Florida program and a similar program in the state of North Carolina. It was developed by UT Extension and the Water Resources Research Center at UT. TNSY, which you'll hear a lot about, Tennessee Smart Yards, is a property owner's initiated and voluntary program. So I'm going to talk about why should I get involved? What's in it for me? Basic principles, and for every one of these principles, there are in the information on the table in the narthex of the church, action items that you, the homeowner, can take. The basic principles are outlined here, but I want to go over them briefly. Manage soils and mulch. Reduce, reuse, recycle yard waste. Water efficiently. There is no reason to be watering your lawn every day. Do any of you have any idea what the average rainfall is here? It's about 52 inches a year, an inch a week, and that's about, on an average basis, you need to sustain your lawn. But I got to tell you, in doing some research, we talk about averages, and I got to tell you a little story. Some of my friends up here heard the story the other day. And it's a story about a friend of mine by the name of Ben Franklin. He's a little older than I, but I've read a lot of his works. And you know what he had to say about averages? On the average, if you put one hand on a cake of ice and you put the other hand on a hot stove, on average, you are comfortable. So to give you a further idea here, in 2018 and 2019 were two very wet years. But in both of those years, we had record droughts for an entire month. And if you want to look at averages, when you backed out of your garage, you were traveling at maybe 5 miles an hour. You got on the parkway and you did 75 miles an hour. On average, you were doing 40 miles an hour. So don't get fooled by averages. Manage pests. Fertilize appropriately. I didn't say none, appropriately. Big deal here. Reduce stormwater runoff and its pollutants. Where does every drop of water in Tellico Village end up when it runs off? Into Tellico Lake. There's no other place. A little bit goes into the ground, no question about it. And the trees are very important. They pick up water, and big fancy term, evapotranspiration. Basically, they sweat out water, hundreds of gallons per day. Provide for wildlife, protect the water's edge. A term, the 820 line. I assume some of you are familiar with it, some of you may not be. The 820 line is a designated elevation around the lake. Less than 820 is owned by TVA. An elevation higher than 820 is owned by property owners. This is important. This is kind of the water's edge. Now, in some cases, the 820 line is 5 feet out of some people's backyard. In other cases, they have a big back lawn, but it's all owned by TVA. This is a program, one single yard at a time, one homeowner making a difference. Learn about actions you can take under these principles. You can be self-certified. You fill out a form, you send it into Andrea's office, and you work off of a cute little thing that we have copies of called the yardstick. And I know you can't read this, but it just happens to be 36 inches long, a yard for your yard. And for each activity you take or thing you've done or will do, you get X number of inches. And within this, if you did everything, you would get 72 inches. The minimum requirement is only 36 inches. The goal is not just to fill out a form and make you feel good, but for you to take action, your own action, and get yourself certified. Long-range program, we hope to develop a medallion that will be available to put in your yard that you have a Tennessee Smart Yard. Next slide, please. With a Tennessee Smart Yard, you win, and so does the environment of Tennessee, and more particularly, Tellico Village. Tellico Lake, wildlife are protected for generations to come. If you do nothing, I'm almost 80 years old. I probably won't see the results, but you younger people here tonight will, and certainly your children and grandchildren. The A&E Committee will be developing additional programs in the future, an enhanced Smart Yards program. The initial focus will be on trees, shoreline protection, visual aesthetics, solid waste management. That's becoming more and more difficult to recycle. All of you know recently now we can no longer put glass in the recycle. It has to go in the garbage. My garbage now is twice what it used to be. I guess I use a lot of glass bottles for various things. I don't know. Why should I participate? Besides being a good environmental steward of your lake, and your lake depends on your stewardship. It saves you money, lowers your water bills, can lower fertilizer and herbicide costs, and less area to mow, all lower costs. Only you can protect Tellico Lake. It's a TVA lake. You think TVA is going to take care of it? No. TDEC, our equivalent of EPA. They're great samplers and gatherers of data where it's convenient, once every 2 years or once every 5 years, and have a lot of data and say, oh, it isn't any good or it is good. They don't take any action. It's up to you, and only you can make a difference. Get involved. This is voluntary, but after all, Tennessee is a volunteer state. Join me, as I said earlier, along with my wife Marilyn and Andrea at our table out front. Volunteer to be a neighborhood steward. Volunteer to be a committee member. Fill out a card, or I have a sheet out there to sign up, giving us some information. You will also get this brochure as a handout to take home. Basic goal, Tennessee Smart Yards program, to become a household common name and change how we operate. We're rolling this out this evening. This is the basic published program from Tennessee Ag. Please identify team leaders for each of the identified neighborhoods. Help your neighbor. Do it yourself, help your neighbor. Enhance the published program to meet specific needs. This is a state of Tennessee program. Next slide. Educate the residents, neighbor to neighbor. Neighborhood talking to neighborhood. Consistent monthly communications. In the HOA newsletter recently was an introduction to the program. There will be an article in there every single month. We hope to also publish every month an article to help you in the connection. We will have workshops. We will help, but we will not do. The need to improve the environment in and around the lake is critical to your lake. I can show you examples in the area where people said, well, somebody else will take care of it. I don't have to worry about it. And now you can walk across that body of water. That has a direct impact on the value of your home. Winston talked about how the value of our homes have gone up. If we have green slime out here, guess what the opposite is? You don't have to live on the water. You can live on the top of a hill. It doesn't matter. You have an impact on the lake. All residents through education must become a steward of your lake. This is our lake, our legacy. Please, I would hope that Tellico Village could be the first community in the state of Tennessee to be a certified Smart Yards community. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will join me and Marilyn and Andrea at our table. My email is out there. It's my personal email. Contact me. I'd love to get to meet and to help each of you. Thank you very much.
And our final speaker, Sherry Lee. Do you want this? Take it. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to discuss and talk to you a little bit about Neighborhood Watch and the Neighborhood Watch program. First of all, the Neighborhood Watch program is completely under the sponsorship of the HOA. So if you're an HOA member, you're reaping the benefits of Neighborhood Watch. If you're not an HOA member, I encourage you to be one. And lastly, if you choose not to be an HOA member, it doesn't mean Neighborhood Watch doesn't affect you. My name's Sherry Lee. I'm a Tellico Village resident. I am retired with 31 years of prior law enforcement with the Los Angeles Police Department. I'm currently on the board of directors with the HOA in regards to Neighborhood Watch, and I am the Kahidi Neighborhood Watch coordinator. Let's talk a little bit about your law enforcement. Tellico Village has 2 law enforcement entities with jurisdiction. In the main village, you have the Loudoun County Sheriff's Department, run under Sheriff Tim Guider, who is coming to a close on his career very soon, and an election will be coming up. Right now, your Neighborhood Watch coordinator for the Loudoun County Sheriff's is Chief Deputy Jimmy Davis. Over in Kahidi, it is in Monroe County, so the Monroe County Sheriff's Office is the jurisdiction of law enforcement for Kahidi, and that is Sheriff Tommy Jones and Deputy Bill Littleton, who is the Neighborhood Watch coordinator. I personally have met with both Chief Davis and Sheriff Jones, and they're both excited to work with Neighborhood Watch to promote safety in our neighborhoods. What's Neighborhood Watch? For those of you who aren't familiar with it or didn't come from a community that had it in the past, Neighborhood Watch is a crime prevention program that brings community members together and teaches them how to make their neighborhood safer by using basic crime prevention techniques and identifying and reporting suspicious activity. See something, say something. Post 9/11, the slogan became a huge national campaign to push and report suspicious activities, especially related to terrorism. However, later it evolved into a basic crime prevention technique for residential neighborhoods and commercial districts as well. It's not a vigilante, militia, organized law enforcement type group that you're gonna organize in your neighborhood and take control of everything. Please. Okay, is there a Neighborhood Watch program in Tellico Village? Yes, the answer is yes. In July of 2021, I launched the new Neighborhood Watch program in Kahidi. Since then, there have been 2 very well attended in-person presentations, including an introduction to Neighborhood Watch and what to do when you leave home. There's over 20 very active Neighborhood Watch supporters in Kahidi dedicated to the program and keeping the community safe. Establishment of a Kahidi Neighborhood Watch group Gmail to disseminate crime-related information relative to Kahidi is there. That program, I just want to say, is so successful in Kahidi that we apprehended a wanted fugitive from Georgia in Kahidi. Okay, so if you don't think crime is around you in your surrounding areas, it is. Okay. What about the main village? 2022, I'm hoping to launch the exact same program in Kahidi, but in all the different neighborhoods. Each neighborhood will have its own sustainable Neighborhood Watch program. And then again, as I mentioned before, what does the Neighborhood Watch program fall under? Falls under the guidelines of Tellico Village and the HOA. You've heard about the COPS program, many of you, in the main village, and how is that different than Neighborhood Watch? Neighborhood Watch and the COPS program are not the same. With the support and training of the Loudoun County Sheriff's Department, the main village has a program called COPS. What it stands for is Citizen Observer Patrol, who are village volunteers trained in security measures and are sanctioned by the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office to patrol and assist law enforcement in limited capacities. And I want to harp on limited. They can't arrest somebody. They can't chase somebody down. They're not going to apprehend, a suspect involved in a crime, okay? At this time, there's no COPS program in Kahidi. However, Neighborhood Watch is designed to fill the gap. It's a fill-in-the-gap program dedicated to deterring crime from happening when we cannot get law enforcement resources needed for this growing community. And it is strictly you, the residents, who keep an eye out for one another and report suspicious activities that are crime-related to the Sheriff's Department. I don't want you reporting that your neighbor's overwatering his lawn. I don't think the Sheriff's Department has time for that. Okay, why is Neighborhood Watch important? The Sheriff's Departments have limited resources available to respond to non-emergency crimes or crimes that are not life-threatening. And folks, I'm going to tell you this, I don't know how many of you have come from large communities and retired here to Tellico Village. I came from the LA area. These sheriff's departments are stretched to the gill. They have limited, you literally have about 5 to 6 deputies patrolling your county on any given day shift or night shift. That's not a lot, especially when there's so much going on in the outerlying areas of Tellico Village. There is no dedicated deputy assigned to Tellico Village. This is why Neighborhood Watch is important. Crime might be very limited within the village now, but statistics are getting much higher in the outerlying areas, and that crime is coming here. Tellico Village is a target for nicer homes and the impression of wealth for criminals looking for opportunities. We're a retirement community, and criminals prey on the elderly. And because we're a retirement community, it allows us to be home during most of the hours of the day. This means you should always be aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. What you see today could solve many crimes from yesterday or the future. We want to keep Tellico Village free and a safe community. I use this slide in my introduction to Neighborhood Watch and living in a bubble. This is what I'd say a lot of people are doing here, okay? I live in a bubble, I'm safe, Tellico Village is safe. Folks, I'm here to tell you that you heard how many homes are in Tellico Village now, and Tellico Village is a safe community. However, but you're fooling yourself if you don't think that crime isn't coming here. And you hear about car break-ins, you've heard about thefts from either construction sites or homes. It's imminent, and I'm not trying to scare anybody or tell anybody anything different, but we need to start opening our eyes and we need to start preparing. And the best way to do that is to start a Neighborhood Watch. Tellico Village Neighborhood Watch 2022, this coming year, I'm going to continue with the existing program in Kahiti, establish the same type of program in each of the main village neighborhoods, have quarterly in-person presentations starting with the introduction to Neighborhood Watch and how to get involved for the main village, future topic-specific presentations with guest speakers, crime updates and statistics village-wide, and new Neighborhood Watch signs are coming soon to all neighborhoods. And this is a preview of the new Neighborhood Watch signs that you'll be getting. The one on the left is the Monroe County Sheriff badge and the sign. Those have been printed, those are ready to be hung. They should be in Kahiti very shortly. And the ones on the right are the main village signs with the Loudoun County badge on it, and those went to print actually today. So we'll be getting those very soon. I encourage everyone to be involved and know what's going on. So you're going to say to me, how do I get involved? You could participate in the upcoming Neighborhood Watch programs and learn how to start a Neighborhood Watch in your immediate neighborhood, educate others on safety tips, look out for each other, and help your neighbors. Dedicate as much time as you want. There's no commitment. Be the eyes and ears of your neighborhood and look out for each other. I would like to let you know or tell you that this community is full of retired law enforcement. Whether you know anyone particularly or whether you are yourself, you have resources within the village that have the knowledge and the wherewithal to help you with your Neighborhood Watch. So if you're not quite sure whether you want to spearhead that in your neighborhood, reach out to maybe the retired folks in your neighborhood and say, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I use you for some guidance? Anyone can participate in any capacity. I did launch this email, tellicovillagenw@gmail.com. You can email me if you're interested in the program and you want to do something about it. Please include your name, your contact number, your address, and the neighborhood you live in. and I will be more than happy to get you started on doing this. So hopefully we can continue to keep this a safe community. I want to make sure that everybody's educated and aware of what goes on around them. And again, thank you guys for all sitting here tonight. It's a little chilly, but it's a great information meeting tonight.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you to all the speakers. We appreciate you coming out. It was a very informative session. We will now move to our question and answer time. And if you have submitted a question through the chat, we can go through theirs. We'd like to ask anybody in the audience if they had any questions right now to come up to the microphone, and we can address them. Okay, you guys did a great job. Anybody from, oh, okay, we have a question.
Hi, thank you to the HOA for providing this venue. It's very informative. I'd also like to give a lot of kudos to the HOA for taking the A&E committee under their wings. It's very important, as it is the number 2 item that people are concerned about. And I'm very excited about Mr. Jim Hawkey heading that committee, and under the HOA, hopefully it'll get the attention and support it really deserves, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Were there any questions from online chat? Okay. Oh, okay. Good, good. That wraps up our session. Next meeting is April the 22nd. There will be more information coming with a complete agenda. I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Stay warm.